This is Startup Series Latam, where we're about to take you on a journey through the dynamic world of Latin American entrepreneurship. In this show, we'll explore the stories of visionary founders and leading VCs who are transforming the region.
When you have this kind of relationship with your user, you can sell them anything. And not sell them, just be there for them. The mass transit sector is so traditional. Technology for us is just enables a solution. It's very difficult because when you are a startup, you don't want to spend your money on that, right? You want to grow. But we understand that if we want to play the big game outside Venezuela and outside the region, we have to have this information right, and we have to do it right.
From the Alan B. Lovan Innovation Center in South Florida, this is Startup Series Latam, where we are inspiring líderes. I'm your host, Mariana Atencio, and today it is my honor to welcome Mafe Vera, CEO and co-founder of La Wawa, to the show. La Wawa is solving city transportation by using technology to provide buses on demand. It has more than 120,000 users across 17 cities in Latin America. And Mafe is the first Venezuelan woman to be the CEO of a technology startup in her country. She flew in from Caracas just for this podcast interview. In a time, Mafe, of political upheaval, you left your 2 kids, you took 2 flights to be with us today desde Caracas. Gracias, Mafe, por acompañarnos.
No, so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, you and I go way back since you had your own fashion label in Venezuela.
In my past life.
Absolutely. and I remember I was hosting a morning show back in the day in my past life as well. Mm-hmm. And I used many of your pieces. So talk to us about, that pivot from being the owner of a fashion label to now being the CEO of a tech company.
I love it, and it has been a wonderful journey. I started as a fashion brand designer and entrepreneur. I had 14 points of sales across Venezuela, and it started as a slow fashion brand, and then very quickly I realized that I was working for the second most polluted industry in the world. And then when I realized that, I was like, oh my God, I have to, cut this or change the vision of the company, right? So I started having more feelings for the purpose. So I started to be more aware of what I wanted to do with my life. Then I was really in love with the idea of doing something right for women, right? So that was my passion, and very slowly across the years, I was realizing that I have to do something for this woman who is a working woman, and she wants to feel good. She wants to, have a sense of self-esteem also. And I did it through fashion. But then arrived COVID-19. So it was 2020. And my life changed completely because I got married and I had my first baby. I was so in love with having my baby. It was like an idea that I had since I was a very young kid. And I was going to become a mother, and COVID-19 was, a disaster for fashion and for retailers. So I decided to sell the manufacturer that I had in Venezuela. And I said, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to have my baby, and, I'm going to take space for me. But I was an entrepreneur since I was born, I think.
You had the entrepreneurial bug, and of course you said, I'm going to take some time off, and what ended up happening?
No, but it was not true. I mean, I couldn't. The baby was born, and my husband, co-founder of Wawa, he was starting Wawa. He's in data analytics, and he knows everything about the cities and this huge problem that I actually lived, because in my stores, I had 14 stores, right? So in my stores, I saw how the working women came to my store and said, like, I just got mobbed in the public transportation, and I'm so tired. I say, okay, but you're going to sales, so you have to wear a smile, look pretty, and it was a struggle for them too. And so I knew that this was a struggle in the region, in Caracas, in the region, and he said, one day I saw him, he was like tired and just like very, very tired and very overwhelmed, and he He was like, I can do this. I have my other company, my data and other companies, Vicua. I can't do it. So I don't know. This is the perfect time because when we opened the Wawa, it was 2021. So it was the perfect time to do it. All the industry and the corporations had the need to take people, by themselves. They had to provide the transportation. So it was the perfect time, but he said, I can do it alone.
The perfect time, but for many people watching, they're probably thinking, what? You had just had a baby. This was not the perfect time when you decide to take on this role as the head of Wawa to, in a way, to step up for your husband who was overwhelmed with his other company.
Yeah, but for me, it was family. It was my husband, my baby, and all the idea of having a role, an entrepreneur role, and again, right? It was connecting with myself.
I love though how you just connected the dots of your story, which I don't believe that I had ever talked to you about before. Of you've always wanted to serve the working woman and fuel her independence, and it started with fashion, and then it was like, how can I help her get to work?
Totally, but I didn't realize that until I was working for Wawa.
Clarify for us, ¿qué es Wawa?
Okay.
What does Wawa do? And for our English speakers also, where does the name Wawa come from?
Okay, so Wawa is a platform, a benefit platform for mobility. So actually we start through mobility and then we do a lot of benefits for the workers, right?
So mobility, you mean transportation?
Transportation, so mass transit. Okay, so mass transportation. What we do is actually we take all the data from workers in a company or by themselves. They download the app and we know exactly where the point of where they lived and where they work. And with this information, we create routes across the cities to provide networks that serves as public transportation, but more efficient, okay? And it's differentiated, it's with air condition, it's safety, and it's safer for women and for everybody who actually use it. And it's more efficient also for the companies, for the corporations that are usually in Latin America, they pay for the transportation because you cannot rely in public transportation. It's very unsafe, it's unreliable, it's uncomfortable.
So instead of having companies having to outsource the transportation themselves, you are creating this solution that pretty much streamlines safe, comfortable, efficient transportation for companies mostly.
Mostly for companies, and then we have all the tier of the population who wants to do it for themselves. So, all the people who can't afford a card or because it's too expensive, there's no credit, or just they don't want, the Gen Z, they don't want to take a car. I mean, next generation, they don't want to drive. So, yeah, there's the network that we create that is safer and it's there for them to serve.
So tell me about the name, because almost every great startup has a great name. What does Wawa mean?
So in Cuba, there was the Walton company. It was the first bus company to arrive to Cuba, and the letters, it was Wawa. So it became actually the name of the transportation, and no one said the name of the company. They did just
La Wawa.
La Wawa. And it became very popular, not just in Cuba, but in all the Caribbean.
So synonymous to the bus, pretty much, right?
Synonymous to the bus, not in Venezuela or Colombia, which we are present right now, mostly in the Caribbean, but we know what Wawa means.
Yeah.
So we embrace the name, and it's very sticky, and it's a
great name.
It's a great name.
You hear people in Latin America and mostly in the Caribbean saying, "Estoy esperando la guagua."
Yeah.
There's no question that means I'm waiting for the bus.
In the Canary Islands in Spain, the public transportation company is named La Wawa too. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So you have this idea to help mass transportation in all of these cities. You have a great name. How do you begin to test this out? Do you just go to
I was telling
investors and say, I want to do this?
Imagine to do that in Venezuela in 2021. It was crazy. It was crazy. No, so we had this idea. We knew it was actually a good idea, and it was 240 million people around the region. They actually rely on mass transportation every day. So it is a problem, not only for Venezuela, for the region,
That's
right?
a huge number, and I want to reinstate it. 240 million people in Latin America.
Passengers.
That's the market that you're addressing here.
That's the market, just in Latin America. But this is a problem of the global south. So we start with this idea, and we came to the bank. There was no credit, lines of credit in Venezuela by the time. So we, pitched to the manufacturer of bus manufacturer in Venezuela, and it was just finishing COVID-19. I think they hadn't sell any bus in the past years or the past month, so they had one bus left there, and we say, can you list this bus? We actually promised that we're going to pay you, and they were like, okay.
Take the bus.
You seem like a good person. Take the bus. So we branded the bus with a QR code. It says the Wawa, purple bus, beautiful, with a QR code, and the QR code was only a waiting list, and it gave us the data of where the people lived and where the people worked. Right?
How many people for that test, so to speak,
that was the thing. 25,000 people in 3 months downloaded.
Wow.
And we just had this bus in Caracas, and everybody was like, oh, have you seen all the Wawa buses? And we were like,
it's one bus.
But it was very loud, it was purple, yellow,
Which
very
also
bright.
speaks to your aesthetic as a fashion designer, where you're like, I need to make this one bus stand out in the city.
And beautiful and bright.
Okay.
So that was what happened. And with this information, we got our first angels investors, right? Because we had the data right there. We proved that it was a necessity. With this first investment, we actually opened 3 routes. We had the 7 and only 7 buses that we own, that we use it just for marketing purpose and to open new markets. And now we have, just to put it in perspective, we have over 300 buses working for us daily. So we only own these 7 buses, and they're all branded. And they are there to open the market, to show the supply that is in the city, all the other units, the transportation companies. How is our vision of a good transportation company, sophisticated for the region, that so many people hasn't seen this before?
Absolutely. How does effective mass transit looks like in the cities of the future?
Yeah.
Talk to me about many issues that are probably coming to mind to folks who are listening. How do you deal with the security on the buses in a place as dangerous as Venezuela, for example? Some of these logistical challenges that may have come up.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that we take care of. We have cameras on board, but the most important thing is that you have the app and you have to sign in the app. So everybody who's in the bus, we know all the personal information, right? We have the cameras, but we also have what we would love to call the marshal. It's this person that is like a bouncer and security guy, So he's a host.
At top of the bus, okay.
Yeah, a host and a security guy on board. And he's there, I love to call them the Wawa managers, because they are there to enhance and secure the experience on board, but also secure everything that the passengers need, right? We are now piloting that they sell coffee on board, for example, in some of the routes. And so imagine you were in a bus for average 77 minutes daily. You can be there, relaxed, take your coffee. We have Wi-Fi in certain of the units, so you can be connected, and you can work.
So critical
sleep
for the whole of the global south, where getting on mass transit can be somewhat dangerous.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a woman. So now we go back full circle to your story.
Yeah.
What are some of these inspiring messages that you've gotten from women who you now help get to work?
We started in October 2021, and then after 2 weeks, we realized that over 59% and over, like from 59 to 65%, there were women using Wawa.
So more than half.
Over more than half. So I was like, wow, why this is happening? So I start calling them, like, why are you using a Wawa? So it was like, no, it's safer. I feel very good. It's pretty. It's purple. I was like, you did it purple on purpose? No, it was purple because it was a very good color, but not for women also only. But yeah, they feel safe, right? And then I start in these calls, I started talking to them. I had one that it was so inspiring for me. I say, okay, it clicked me when it says, okay, so I use La Wawa because after this proposition, now I can wear a skirt again. And for me, it was like a revelation, because for me, being in a fashion industry before, I made skirts, right? And I made this clothes that it was so feminine for women, but I didn't realize they couldn't use it.
Because of how unsafe.
How unsafe they felt, right? So thanks to Wawa, I can use a skirt again. It became this signature line where it says, okay, I'm not just giving transportation. I'm working for better quality of life of these women that are actually working, the working force of Latin America. After that, it was 3 weeks after we began with Wawa, I said, okay, this is why. No, and this is why I came to this project. And it became clearly that, for me, it was clear that I was staying there using technology to solve a street problem, a real street problem.
A structural problem
Yeah.
that impacts women and men in so many different ways. You mentioned that you're now in several cities. We said it in the intro, 17 cities total. So talk to us about that journey from, this beautiful, bold move of leasing a bus, trying it out. You start to get positive feedback to making it to 17 cities. How is this something you were able to scale?
It has a lot of challenges, but a lot, and it takes a lot of resilience, and it takes a lot of creativity and a lot of teamwork and team effort to do it. So you have different type of cities, right? So for example, in Venezuela, we have the supply is by what we call the single busman. So they're single owners and they have 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units.
Okay.
But then you go to Colombia and you have large companies, transportation companies. So you have a transportation company that has maybe 50, 20, 100 buses. And it's a total different strategy, but but at the end you have to find something that it takes them together, so you can scale the model, right? And we start doing benefits for them, and we knew that if we can aggregate all the demand through Wawa, we can actually give them more work, more jobs, and more hours daily. And it became very clear that our business, it was a very good business for the users and for the clients and for the companies, but it had to be a business also for the drivers, right?
Absolutely.
And just identify the problems. They did. Actually, what a bus driver do for a company is they take the people in the morning and in the afternoon, but then the whole day they don't do anything. And for us, we provide them hours to work during 10 o'clock off-peak hours, right? So, this was very important to scale, and this point was crucial. Also, it was very crucial to identify the clusters that actually provide the perfect sandbox to try it, right? So
the clusters in the different cities.
In the different cities, for example, Barranquilla, it's amazing because they have all the zona francas. I don't know how you say in English, but La Zona Franca, and there's a lot of industries just in a cluster, right? So if we can aggregate the demand on the whole area, it was more easy to do the networks that are shared networks, right?
You touched on something though really important, which I imagine was very challenging, is that all of the kind of bureaucracy and organization around mass transit varies from city to city and from country to country. How do you navigate that craziness?
Well, I do a lot of work in the field. That's the truth.
Boots on the ground.
Yeah,
that's
boots on the ground,
it.
because technology for us is just enables a solution. But at the end, this is a mass transit. The mass transit sector is so traditional. Mm-hmm. And you find that you have companies over 60 years, 80 years old, right? Now they're managed by the 3rd and 4th generation, and it's managed the same way. So we have to do a lot of field work with the drivers, with the unions, with the transportation minister of every country and every city, with the mayor. And when actually they understand the solution, for us it's amazing, because imagine if you are a city with a lot of public transportation problems, you have a company that is taking out people from the public transportation that is overcrowded, and it's paying more. So it's a solution because you take out la presión que tienen to put it in a private transportation network.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so it's for them, it's amazing.
You touched on something, which is this idea of tech versus tradition. You are disrupting an industry that is over 60 years old, that has seen no change, which is transportation, and you're infusing it with data and with technology. So what are some of the hurdles that you've encountered, even pitching this idea to many of these sort of legacy families that are used to doing things the traditional way?
I don't know. I think it was not a challenge to pitch. It was on the contrary. So, traditional families understand perfectly the problem because the industries, the traditional families, or the family offices of the region, they have this problem in their own industry. They know how much it costs, and they are willing to invest and to believe that something can change that, because it's very inefficient right now at the moment. So I think that how we pitch and how we frame it, it is very good for everybody, like for the family offices, for the traditional companies, for the industry, for the institutional side. It is a solution. It's a 360 solution.
Solution. How do you comport yourself in these pitch meetings? What advantages do you think that you bring to the table?
Well, I think it's amazing how when you know the field. So when you have the boots on the ground, when you...
In Spanish, I also use the phrase, cuando tengo los pelos de la burra en la mano.
Exactamente, sí. A ver, it's amazing when you know what you're talking about, and when you know that the problem is not only a technology problem, it's a problem that you have to solve with the people there. So, for example, look, when we started in October 2021, the first big problem that we had, it was that actually the people or the segment that we target, they have never used an app before to move around, because they've never used ride-hailing or an app to shop.
Because that's relatively new in a place like Venezuela.
Yeah, and in Venezuela, in the global south, we have ride-hailing all over the place, but not the
download
people,
a QR code.
No, and when you do ride-hailing, not necessarily all the people have the money.
Right.
Can afford ride-hailing, right? So this segment of the population, they didn't use an app before, and we have to go to the streets and teach them. So it very quickly became a cultural change. So we are doing education on streets, and it's very hard when you do educate people to do something that it's improving their life. When they understand that it's improving their life, it's fine. Okay, perfect, I embrace it. But before that, it's very hard. And I think when I do the pitches and I explain this to the funds, and they understand that it's more than the good numbers that we have, it's also more, and it's also a lot of work that we're doing and we are willing to do. It sells.
And you have sold in markets even other than Venezuela and Colombia. Tell me about some of the new markets that you're looking into. I mean, literally, I have to tell you guys, like, backstage, she's like making calls, hustling, selling nonstop. Yeah. What are some of these new places you envision Wawa operating in? Yeah,
well, we're actually opening in Guatemala. So yeah, next week we'll be there. Our team will be there, and we're very happy. We're very happy to be in Guatemala City, and it hopefully grows through all Central America. I'm very excited about opening new markets because I know the necessity they had. No, so Guatemala City, for anyone who's listening and have been there, it's very crazy with the traffic we have. We know that people spend over 90 minutes daily or more. People has to, just in the call that I was doing just with a Guatemala customer, he say like, I have workers that they have to wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning to be at work at 7.
Well, when you drive through Caracas at 4 in the morning, you start seeing the long lines of people waiting for the traditional buses. That was before Wawa came
Before Wawa. You don't see that anymore, Mariana.
Exactly. It's been 3 years since I've been to Venezuela, so that's why. What comes next after Guatemala?
Well, in the meantime, I hope that we can get all Central America, right? So there's a lot of growing space there in Salvador, Costa Rica, places like Panama. We actually come where we are called. Like for Guatemala, it was actually because we had an investor, a family office, that called us and say, hey, this problem, it's huge in Guatemala City. We want to be part of the solution. Please come to Guatemala. They came to Venezuela. They had to get visa, and it was a hustle for them to come to Venezuela and pitch us Guatemala.
Wow.
And when we saw the numbers, we were like, oh my God, like Guatemala is like the best hidden jewel of Central America. We didn't know this. And this is why we're coming there. So I think I told you, it's 240 million people. So there's a lot of room for us to grow in just in Latin America for the moment.
And seeing where the energy is coming from, where the light is entering the room. I mean, in the case of investors coming to you, pitching you their country, obviously you needed to heed that call, and you have.
No, totally.
Shunayata, who we interviewed here in the podcast series, he's the founder of Bicycle Capital, arguably one of the biggest players in the region right now. He says that in emerging markets such as Latam, there is a lack of trust, that instead of seeing that as something that's negative, he sees the opportunity in once you have gained a customer in Latam and you've gained their trust, then you're able to sell them many other things. The case of Wawa, when you have a woman who steps onto your bus and feels safe, you are garnering her trust. What other opportunities have you found there to make business?
Well, thank you for the question, because he's actually totally right. So when we have thousands of people using an app to go from like daily, twice a day minimum. We have users that use it for like 4 or 5 times a day. They're heavy users. But when you have this kind of relationship with your user, you can sell them anything. And not sell them, just be there for them, right? So it is actually true. We call them the benefit platform, because we do, I don't know, like in Colombia, we do wellness on board, for example. So companies say, okay, I want to do the Wellness Friday for my workers, because you have them for so many minutes. Okay, let's do some breathing, yoga classes, like stretching, and everything on board. And then in Guatemala, we're gonna pilot the English classes on board. So imagine these BPOs who have their workers there having English lessons on board for 90 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes on board La Wawa. So yeah, we have that. And then we actually, every Wawa stop, so through the routes, there are commercial retail stores, and we partner with them, and we do, for example, we did it in Venezuela with McDonald's. So we do the Big Mac Friday 10% discount for all the Wawa users, and you can get it through the app. And then, so imagine if you are a company, let's say X company, paying for their workers to use the Wawa, and they actually have a discount on Fridays to go to buy a hamburger. It's amazing.
And then from hamburgers, you can offer them insurance if they need it.
Pharmacies, we partner with pharmacies, insurance, even financial services, which is amazing. We're partnered with a bank in Venezuela also to do financial service through an app.
So it's capitalizing on these deep relationships that you have with your customers.
Totally.
And identifying what the needs are and saying, how can I continue to build on this trust?
And we have this from the voice of our users, right? So they tell us what they need, and then we grow into that. We have a special team that is also, it's always working in doing these partnerships with the companies. And sometimes they are the same users, our clients. So imagine, the X company is our client, we move their workers, but we also partner them to do a benefit for all the other workers in our platform. So it's amazing. It's a very, very big relationship that we have with each of the clients that we have.
I have to ask you about fundraising and what the experience has been like for you, how much money you've raised so far, and what advice do you have for entrepreneurs such as yourself who are going through that process?
Wow, it's an amazing question. It's a very hard question. No, I mean, the region is complicated, and there's not a lot of flow of money like different than America or in Europe. So
and this is post-2021, so the flow of capital isn't what it was.
There's a lot of capital available for very, very early stage companies, right? And then there's no more. Yeah, when you get to Series A, to Series B, there's no much players.
And you have also said that you have, because of this volatility that exists in Venezuela, and because this is such a traditional industry, you've also been very diligent in just providing data and being very methodical with that since the very beginning.
Yeah, I always think that if we didn't do this, no one's going to look into us. So because we're very, very organized, our data room, we have receiving a lot of congrats because of the data room is very, very organized, and it's very, it has all the information that you need. All the financials are very clear to see, and all the information is there. So if there's anyone who wants to look up in the Wawa and they ask for the data room, they're going to have everything there.
And when you're dealing with a country as uncertain as Venezuela, you need that to give your investors certainty.
For example, we have a good point of Baker & McKenzie. We did that. We invest. Our accounting team is EY, and PwC also worked with us because we have to prove that we are doing things right.
You need those stamps of approval.
Yes, that it's very difficult because when you are a startup, you don't want to spend your money on that, right? You want to grow. But we understand that if we want to play the big game outside Venezuela and outside the region, because we can also raise money in the United States or in Europe, we have to have this information right, and we have to do it right. So it's different than if you are a founder from Mexico or if you are a founder from Colombia. We understand that it's very different, so we play the big game. We want to play the big game.
You are playing the big game. I want to ask you one more question before we head into our lightning round, which is...
I'm afraid of this lightning round.
No. We're going to have fun. The fact that you're breaking new ground as a female entrepreneur. We said it in the intro, the first Venezuelan woman to lead a tech startup in the country. Tell us about your role as a woman in the CEO role.
It's true that as a woman, I have 2 babies. I don't have kids. I have babies, and I am married, and I have...
Well, and you also work with your husband.
Also that, yeah.
So that dynamic, how does that work out?
We respect each other a lot, and we admire each other, and we respect a lot. And he doesn't get, like, maybe I don't agree with something that he says, but I don't say anything in front of anybody. I just go back to him and say, hey, why are you saying this? Please explain, because I don't understand. And then I don't take it personally, because maybe when he says something, he's saying something that I don't see. I love to work with him because I'm passionate about what I do. And he also is passionate about what he does. So when you're passionate and you share this passion and you share the dream, it's amazing to be always in the dream, right? Or always working in the dream. And well, I had my second baby when I was just named CEO of the company. So I was named CEO of the company 2 days after I learned that I was pregnant.
Wow.
So it was shocking, but he also, my boss, my partner, my board, they all understand how tired I was. We have women in the board, so they understand if I'm tired, and if when you have a baby, you have a lot of changes in your body, you don't feel yourself. And I was going through this with a baby in my hands, but a baby company too. So it was very good. It was very hard. Now the baby is 1.5 years, and it's better now.
Well, a 1.5-year-old is still very tough for most
tough,
people.
But the hormones are gone. This problem, it's gone. So it's very difficult, but I think if you're passionate about what you do, and if you love what you do, if you believe, I do believe in what we do, and I see the path, and I'm very visual because I'm from kind of creative background. So I see the path and I see the growth of Wawa.
But you hit on something pretty important, because when you look at the data, 3% of venture capital funds go to companies that are started by women. That's in the United States, even less in Latin America. You're going against the odds. you hit on something important, which is this idea of also being able to have women on the board that support you and are understanding of some processes that you may be going through.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that for me it has been everything like rose color. No, it's not true, because I can see where that comes from, and I can see that in my space too. But I think it's a matter of how much importance you give that, right? So if I'm always focused and like, I'm not gonna have the money because only 3% in this data, it will be hard for me, not for anyone. So I think you have to focus on your job, in your numbers, in what your vision, your strategy, and that's it. And don't worry about the other things, because if it's for you, it will come.
Absolutely.
And you're absolutely delivering. So that's
you can't control the data right now, but you can control how much influence it has over you.
Yeah.
And watching you operate the past couple of days, being first one only in many of these rooms comes naturally to you, and it's a competitive advantage that you have being a woman, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you have to do sacrifices, Mariana. It's not my babies. They cry when I leave, and and I have an amazing team at home also that works with me and help me. But I think at the end they will be happy and they will be proud of what we are doing. We're not doing only for them. We're only doing it for a bunch of people. So I think that's very meaningful.
That example that you're setting at home. When are you ready for the Latino lightning round?
Okay,
dale. Every show, you have to answer con lo primero que te venga a la mente.
Okay,
Are you
let's
ready?
do it. Let's do it.
What is one word that best describes your entrepreneurial journey?
Passion. I've said it.
Which trend, sector, or country has you the most excited about Latin America right now?
Central America. That was easy.
Who in the business world inspires you the most, dead or alive?
It's my husband. For me, I really admire him. And he's the one who challenged me every day. He's the one who inspired me every day. He inspires me to do better. Like, I feel like, oh my God, I'm not delivering. I have to do better. And he's never judging me. So it's a very good inspiration, because he's never judging me, but he's lighting the way for me. So I admire him.
Shout out to Juan Jose Picaterra, founder at Vicua, co-founder of La Wawa.
Yeah.
Mafe, if you could solve one problem in Latin America with the snap of your fingers, what would that be?
Wow, education. And I know there's many problems, but I think education will help a lot.
What is a favorite Latin American saying of yours? Me lo dices en español.
Obviamente, ponte las alpargatas que vamos a bailar joropo. That's my favorite one.
So that would translate to put on your dancing shoes?
Yeah.
Because the party's gonna get wild, is that?
Yeah, but it's very from, I'm from the plains, from La Tierrita, what we call La Tierrita, it's the plains of Venezuela, and the alpargatas, but in Latin America, they understand what the alpargatas, we have them. And joropo, it's a very local music.
Right.
So yeah, let's, and the joropo, it's like, very, how do you do this? Zapateado.
It's like kind of like tap dancing, right?
It's
right?
so, you have to do it hard. That's why you say you put
Mira,
your
bueno,
alpargata.
I got you to dance a little joropo here on the show.
Yeah.
Mira. This is a good segue for our last question, which is, what is your top Latin American song to blast when you need to unwind after a stressful day?
Wow, no. This is, a joropo song also.
¿De verdad?
I love.
Anyone in particular?
Sí, of course. Apuré en un viaje. It's my favorite one. It's my favorite.
Bueno, Mafe, thank you for bringing a little bit of tu tierrita here to the show.
Thank
Me
you.
encantó conversar contigo. Puñitos.
Thank you so
Apuré
much.
en un viaje. Bueno, ya zapateaste y todo.
Apuré en un viaje.